Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about a new funding opportunity to unlock economic mobility for adult learners. My name is Catherine Ewell. I'm a director at Jobs for the Future, leading in partnership with College Futures Foundation. Before we do a deep dive into the content, I wanted to give you an overview of our session today. We'll start off with some background about the Unlocking Economic Mobility for Adult Learners initiative, hearing from the initiative director at College Futures, Rebecca Ruan O'Shaughnessy. We'll share more about the partnership between College Futures and Jobs for the Futures. Then we'll talk through the funding opportunity in detail. We'll share the key milestones and a timeline to be aware of, tactical information on how to apply. And lastly, we'll go through key themes of questions we've received through the registration and open up for some live questions. We won't be able to get through all of the questions we received today, but we'll follow up with an FAQ document in the coming days. Now, I'm going to hand it over to the initiative director at College Futures Foundation, Rebecca Ruan O'Shaughnessy, who will tell us a little bit more about the initiative.
Thank you, Catherine. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rebecca Ruan O'Shaughnessy, Director of Strategy and Program at College Futures Foundation. We're the funder and the initiative lead for this $4 million funding opportunity to strengthen post-secondary education systems in California, especially their ability to better serve adult learners toward economic mobility. We're excited to share more with you about this great opportunity in partnership with Jobs for the Future, our intermediary partner for this opportunity, and I'm so glad you can join us today. I want to start off with why we are focusing on adult learners. At College Futures, we believe that rebuilding the California dream means fundamentally ensuring more people, especially those who have long been underserved, can achieve meaningful economic mobility through post-secondary education. To meet our North Star of 70% attainment for learners who are underserved, we have to expand our view on who post-secondary education is for and how it works. We know that California is home to 6 million adults under 65 who have some college but no credential. And we also know that almost half of the California community college students are adults. Many of them are working adults over 25 who face rigid, complex systems not built for their needs. I'm listing some of those structural barriers. They are particularly applicable to working adult learners on this slide. For example, the opportunity cost of pursuing education, such as lost income and time, combined with limited access to financial aid, creates compounding affordability challenges. Rigid class schedule, semester timelines, and fixed term models just don't work with the unpredictable realities of lives and responsibilities. And I think all of us can relate to that. And when quality learning is tied to physical presence, it further tips the balance against adults who are already stretched thin. These barriers aren't about motivation or ability, they're about design. And that is why College Futures launched the Unlocking Economic Mobility for Adult Learners initiative. Next slide, please. This initiative aims to bring attention and investment to transforming post-secondary education structures so that they equitably serve adult learners. And we also believe that by designing more affordable, flexible, responsive, and high-impact options for adult learners, we can create a better system for all learners. Next slide, please. Our focus isn't just a verbal commitment, it's something that we put into action through our dual grant-making strategy. On one hand, we'll continue to invest in traditional established systems and their efforts to improve institutional structures so that they can better serve adult learners. On the other hand, we're also seeing models built specifically for adult learners, models that are already showing promising outcomes, and we want to support them as well. This dual strategy reflects what we believe, that transformation requires both strengthening the systems we have and investing in new approaches that meet learners where they are. Next slide, please. With that, We're so excited to dive into this $4 million funding opportunity under our improvement strategy, which is the effort to strengthen the capacity of traditional and established post-secondary systems in California to better serve adult learners. Next slide. This is a major investment for College Futures, and we went through a competitive process to find the best intermediary partner to engage us in this journey. And many conversations later, we selected Jobs for the Future, JFF, as our intermediary partner. As you can see, our organizational North Stars are aligned around economic mobility for more people in more places. We also deeply value their content expertise, deep California work, and their experience managing funding opportunities. But most importantly, we appreciate their ability to learn and iterate and strive to make things better. And we're confident that they will do that for the grantees as well. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the JFF team.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. I'm now pleased to share more about the funding opportunity, the timeline, and the requirements. As Rebecca mentioned, we are sourcing novel ideas and solutions that center the needs of adult learners, balancing multiple responsibilities and priorities. College Futures is looking to identify adult learner-centered innovations that accelerate opportunity and economic mobility. The funding opportunity will offer monetary support up to $4 million in subgrants for a maximum of 10 grantees, as well as non-monetary support, including the opportunity to participate in a peer learning community over 2 years that will offer regular touch points for cross-sharing innovative models and practices. It will also provide grantees with technical assistance and support from SMEs. Once we have selected our grantees, we are planning to facilitate a peer learning community from 2026 to 2027. The peer learning community will offer 2 complementary offers for grantees. The first is to support capacity building and institutional strengthening for grantee organizations, which on the programmatic side will improve strategies and approaches to better serve adult learners, and on the institutional level will reduce the structural barriers that inhibit innovation and agility needed to center adult learners. The second is to develop networks and partnerships that allow grantee organizations to share innovative ideas and best practices, including opportunities to influence policy change, and to cultivate new or deepen existing relationships with other adult learner experts and peers. Align with College Futures strategy that focuses on cost, time, place, and pace. The letter of intent names several areas of interest to support a bold future vision for how post-secondary education can better serve adult learners. The first is around affordability and access. The ability to afford to participate in post-secondary education programs without taking on large amounts of debt. Access to programs that result in career advancement and economic mobility. Within progress and completion, adult learners will have the ability to re-enroll and continue their education without restarting their educational journey and losing time. They'll also successfully complete degree credentials while balancing learning, work, and caregiving responsibilities, and also earn their degrees in a shorter time frame. Thirdly, under personalized support and transparency, adult learners will receive academic advising, career supports tailored to adult learners' goals. They'll feel welcome and valued as members of the community college and professional networks. They'll understand the return on investment of their educational choices. These are the areas of interest that are listed in the letter of intent, and we're looking to source ideas around. If you move to the next slide, the graphic shows the full span of entities that may apply for this opportunity. We recognize that a bold reimagining of the post-secondary education system to meet the needs of adult learners will require participation and solutions from every facet of society. For that reason, we are encouraging a broad set of organizations to apply for the funding opportunity. These include regional intermediaries and networks, employers, for-profit companies, including ed tech companies, alternative adult-focused programs, CBOs and nonprofits, workforce organizations, and labor unions. All entities will need to apply for the funding opportunity in partnership with a traditional post-secondary institution, with a strong preference for those partnered with institutions in California. Now let's take a look at the timeline. Moving from the goals and design to the tactical information about the funding opportunity, we wanted to highlight a few of the key milestones and dates. The application will follow a two-step application process, starting with the letter of intent, followed by a full application, referred to as the RFP. The first step of the application will be to submit a letter of intent, which is due on October 24th. We will send out an invitation on November 17th to a subset of applicants to submit a full application by December 8th. By early February, we will notify grantees and host a kickoff call. Applications will be evaluated with the following criteria. Equity is at the center of our evaluation criteria to ensure we increase access and opportunity for a diverse set of applicants. The evaluation process will include multiple reviewers, standardized scoring practices, engagement with SMEs, and a calibration process to ensure diverse perspectives are at the table for decision-making. We have developed a scoring rubric to evaluate initial proposals, which include 4 key criteria. The first is a clear articulation of the problem or barrier faced by adult learners and proposed solution. The second is a structural impact on adult learners' economic mobility and the sustainability of the solution. The third is offering a solution that is new and innovative. It is important to note that we are not looking for small incremental change, but rather a bold reimagining of the adult learner experience. And lastly is providing strong support and evidence, which can include artifacts like a theory of change focused on how the proposed idea will contribute to economic mobility in the longer term, even beyond the 2-year grant period. To apply, review the letter of intent guidelines and questions. You can ask some of your questions today. We'll also be posting a FAQ document later in the week that answers all of the questions we've received. And then you'll have the opportunity to submit your letter of intent through a Microsoft form by October 24th. As noted earlier, this is just the first step and is designed to be simple and straightforward with just 4 open-ended questions. Now we'll move into the Q&A and start off with some of the questions that were submitted to us through the registration form. So I'll start off with one question, and then Rebecca, I'll call you in to alternate and answer some of the questions as well. So one of the common questions that we received as people were registering for the webinar was, are there any specific workforce areas that will be given priority or preferred? These can be areas like education and nursing. The answer is that there's no preference given to a certain focus area or industry. Applications will be reviewed and evaluated based on the criteria listed in the LOI, with a focus on the quality of opportunities that advance adult learners' economic mobility. Rebecca, I'm going to hand it over to you for one of the questions that we've received in advance. Can you clarify whether this funding opportunity is available for programs serving individuals outside of California without a California-based partner?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a strong preference in terms of eligibility that the partnership is with the current partnership is with a California post-secondary education institution, right? Because remember, this funding opportunity is to advance our improvement strategy, which focuses on California post-secondary education system. But innovation is key. So basically, if an applicant currently does not have a relationship in California, but does have a partnership with other post-secondary systems, we're interested to understand more. But knowing that the strong preference will be with the partnership in post-secondary education systems in California. And also an important note is as part of this grant funding, the implementation has to be built upon the partnership with California Post-Secondary Education. Therefore, these organizations, if there's innovation and if you are selected as a grantee, there's a little bit of a time crunch for you to then establish those relationships in California.
Great. Thanks for shedding light on that, Rebecca. I'm taking the next common question we got as a part of the registration. Will certain regions be prioritized? There are no priority regions that are listed in the letter of intent. We're looking all across the state of California in terms of the implementations. So no regional preference. All right, Rebecca, I'm giving you the meatier ones. Will there be a specific preference given to new innovations or scaling existing ones?
Thank you for that question. So all the stages of maturity are listed in the LOI. So we are open to every single stage of those innovations. So I would say, it's really important to really think about the evidence that the proposed solutions will support and how it supports economic mobility for adult learners. So applications will be assessed based on the readiness and maturity of the innovation. But again, the key is the theory of change and problem statements and the evidence that you currently have.
Great. The next question is, I'm a post-secondary institution, community college. Do I need a partner to apply? Another question about eligibility. So if you're a post-secondary institution, you do not need a partner to apply. You may decide that your innovation requires partnership, but it is not required in terms of eligibility if you are a post-secondary institution. The next question, Rebecca, for you is, can I apply if I'm a current College Futures grantee?
Being a current College Futures grantee does not automatically preclude you from applying for this funding opportunity, but you cannot receive funding for the same work or initiative that's already supported by College Futures.
Great. I'll take the last one of the questions that we got ahead of time through the registration. Then we're going to make sure that we answer some of the live questions too. So we'll shift over there. Should projects plan to measure short-term increases in earnings? And should interventions be expected to increase earnings in the immediate period? The answer is that within the 2 years of the grant, we do not anticipate earnings will increase. However, it is important to demonstrate some early indicators or signals of how the innovation will lead to economic mobility for adult learners in the longer term. I mentioned before the theory of change, so you can articulate how the specific innovation that you're proposing will lead to economic mobility in the longer term through the theory of change. I'm going to shift us over to some of the live questions. And I know we actually answered a couple of them. So the first question I see here is the opportunity for up to 10 grants at $4 million per grant or $4 million across the 10 grants? So it's a full $4 million is across the 10 grants. So that will be split across the grantees, and that's a maximum of 10 grantees, depending on the number of ideas that we get and is confirmed. Rebecca, I'll ask you to answer this next one. Will this grant fund any research and or evaluation activities included alongside the programming?
Yeah, so more details will be forthcoming. I will say the principle there is to support grantees to do their best work. So we want to lean in to be as unrestricted as possible. So again, it's really important, right, that you state your problem statement, your theory of change, and how your budget supports that theory of change.
Great. The next question that we just received is, can the applicant be a community college and a 4-year? The answer to that question is yes, we welcome partnerships between community colleges and 4 years. So welcome that type of partnership. The next question I saw come in for workforce orgs and labor unions, does eligibility extend to county agencies like workforce development divisions? Rebecca,
Absolutely. Yeah.
go
I
ahead.
assume that's my term, but absolutely, right? To do our best work, it requires us working differently, creatively. We actually highly encourage new partnerships to be emerging through this effort. So, really, all organizations can apply as long as you're cleared that during this grant period for the grant scope, you are partnering with a post secondary institution in California. They're serving California adult learners.
Wonderful. Another eligibility question, if you don't mind also taking this one, Rebecca, which is, can a community college district rather than an individual college apply? Can K through 12 adult education schools apply?
Yes, so for the community college districts, absolutely, right? Again, this is an improvement strategy. We want to think about the community college system, right? Collectively and individually, how they can improve their strategies, policies, and structures to better serve adult learners. So, absolutely. In terms of the K-12 system, it kind of goes back to it's the same answer as the workforce aid organization, right? Absolutely, you can apply, but knowing that the importance is to point out the partnership you are establishing with the California post-secondary system and how you think about serving adult learners and their economic mobility outcomes.
Great. I see another question that's come in. Is there a limitation to the budget of the grantee who applies? I would say that the ceiling is the maximum of 4 million, although that will be split across the 10 grantees, but we have not specified a ceiling beyond that. This entire initiative will be a maximum of 4 million. Rebecca, anything you wanted to add there related to the budget?
No, I think, we are kind of a ballpark, right? Thinking about 4 million for 10 grantees, but we really want to find the best projects. So I think some of those decisions will be determined once we have identified the potential RFP, through the RFP process, the potential subgrantees, and then we can make those decisions in terms of funding specific dollar amounts. But again, go back to the budget needs to be very much aligned to your theory of change and your proposed innovations.
Great. I see a question here that somebody submitted a question through the registration that has not been answered. So we received many questions ahead of time and prioritized the themes that we had heard. But what we will do, since there were hundreds of questions that came through, is document responses to them and send them out by the end of this week. So if your question wasn't answered today in the pre-registration questions, we'll make sure that gets answered as a follow-up in the FAQ document. Rebecca, I'll ask you this question. Would a project that targets individuals with an associate's degree be ineligible?
I think this is a really good question. So I will say the key is how do you, again, it's a problem statement, right? How are you advancing economic mobility for adult learners? If you're able to answer that in a compelling way and demonstrate, some of the promising early outcomes, we're definitely open to kind of review the substantive content.
Great. Seeing if there's any other questions that are coming in. There's a couple that we have answered. So the next question is, what is the risk profile of the decision makers, i.e. status quo, traditional solutions versus disruptive, novel solutions? So Rebecca, I want to see if you want to take that and talk a little bit about the levels of maturity that we have listed in the letter of intent.
Yeah, sure. So I think I can take a stab at it, but we will have to kind of think about it a little bit more. And I think we'll generate a better answer, more complete answer in our FAQ. But, off the bat, we're thinking about innovation in many ways, in two ways. One is it's a novel solution, right? Like you haven't seen that before, and this is brand new. It's tackling a problem differently. And here's what we've learned. Here's what we hope to learn from the RFP. So that will be kind of a proposal that will meet, right, the eligibility kind of criteria of this funding opportunity. Another one I would like to surface is kind of a maybe it's not a new idea, but potentially the previous institutional environments did not allow it to fully reach its potential, right? So then the articulation will be around how are we doing it differently in terms of institutional environment and structures and practices. They're different from the previous ones. So then to support this innovation to fully be integrated to better support adult learners.
You're on a roll, Rebecca. I'm going to ask one more. So, do you have any studies that have identified learner-centered barriers within California based on public post-secondary systems specific to the populations you're prioritizing through this funding?
So I will say there have been many, I think, research from different entities that have been talking about adult learners. So one of the most recent one that the College Futures is partnering with is kind of the series of reports that we have with the California Education Lab, really surround adult learners in the California community college system. So that's one aspect, right, into the adult learner experience. But then I think at the same time, in one of my earlier slides, we kind of talk about some of those barriers around cost, around time, around space, around pace. Those are kind of some of those major structural barriers that we have found to be most applicable to the adult learners population. So we really want to see solutions that are really trying to address, right, some of those structural barriers. And one thing I want to add is, we're not perfect. We don't have all the answers. So if you're like, hey, this is another barrier where we really see that we really want to tackle, that is part of the problem statement we would like to see in the submissions.
Thanks for sharing, Rebecca. And also wanted to direct the audience to the recent report that was published through College Futures on golden opportunities, looking at the return on investment of education that goes beyond adult learners, but speaks to some of the strategies that are listed here.
And one more thing I would like to add is that we just published the state of the learners for California in partnership with Gallup. And in there, it really talks about a lot of the learner experience. And we also have vignettes that really support adult learners in particular.
Next question that we received, can entities submit more than one proposal? I think we would welcome more than one proposal if it's a new idea and maybe it's a different partnership. There are no limits on the number of innovative ideas that you can submit. Anything you wanted to add there, Rebecca?
No, we want ideas. System agnostic, right? Quantity agnostic, as long as the solutions is grounded in supporting post-secondary system structures.
This is a question that we may want to answer in the FAQ, but I'll name it out loud just in case there's a conversation here. Is there data we should be asking our institutional effectiveness research departments to stress the need across the regions we serve? I believe the census data is down with the shutdown.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think, Catherine, we will address that in the FAQ as well. But I will say it depends on what problem statement you have, right? Like if it's about some of the regional elements to economic mobility and how institutions can really support the equitable economic recovery for the region, I will see it being important to get that regional data, right? So again, problem statement is your first step to kind of then kind of determining what kind of data and evidence that you will need to pull for this RFP.
The next question I'll take, will there be a rubric ahead of when the LOI is due? The LOI lists out the criteria that we're using to evaluate applications, which is what the rubric has been based off of. So you can refer back to the LOI with the key criteria listed there. Does the organization have to be a certain size to apply? For example, if the organization has a budget of 10 million, is that too much?
I would say no, as long as their innovations, big or small. We would like to hear from you.
Yeah, we haven't named any restrictions on the size of the organization. So all are eligible regardless of size. Let's see, one more I think that has come in. Community colleges have been referenced a couple of times during this presentation. Are they the priority or are four-year institutions equally valid?
Whoever raised that question is very astute. So community colleges have been referred a few times because one, prior to this role at College Futures, I was with the community college system. So I do have some familiarity with the system. So there's a little bit of that context bias there. But I think fundamentally, community college system is a large system, right? It serves a lot of the underserved population, and it has close to half of its student population being adult learners. So we definitely see that as a key lever. But I would not say that they are a priority. Four-year institutions are definitely welcome, encouraged to apply, as long as, again, the conversation is about, what do you see in terms of, barriers for serving adult learners in your system and in institutions.
I think we may have answered most of the questions. There might be a couple more that we can follow up in the FAQ. I see one more question that just came in. Is the target population for the RFP 25 and older? I think the answer to that is yes. But Rebecca, if you wanted to add any nuance there. All right. I think we've answered all of the questions that have come in. I do realize that we received many more questions in advance through the registration, which, as I mentioned before, will continue to build out responses. And you'll see tomorrow after this event, you'll see the recording coming from our team. And then later this week, you'll see an FAQ document get posted. If there aren't any other questions, I will give people some time back today, but thank you so much for the thoughtful questions that we received in advance and throughout the session. We're looking forward to continuing to collaborate with you all and share out what we're learning. Thanks, Rebecca.